Oh, hang on, I'm gonna let the cat out.
Let's do this. The Cult of Hockey podcast by the faithful and for the faithful. I'm David Staples of the Edmonton Journal, and I'm here today with Bruce McCurdy. And Bruce is in the process of letting his cat out the door, and here he comes back. So, Bruce, a fantastic game tonight. Utterly fantastic game tonight. My headline is that Connor McDavid had a Gretzky of a game. Because I remember Gretzky often going into Toronto and just putting the boots to the Leafs. And that's what Connor McDavid did tonight. He might have had, was that his most memorable game ever? I mean, it's on the list. It's on the short list.
Yeah.
He was utterly dominant tonight. And to do it in Toronto, to flash that big smile in the Edmonton Oilers jersey of triumph in Toronto, when we both know, how snarky and snidely the Toronto media, some of the Toronto media, not all of them, some of the Toronto media has been about McDavid in Edmonton, and from the day he was drafted, there's an extra level of satisfaction tonight. And is it Schadenfreude for Oilers fans at the misery of the Toronto Maple Leafs? We've heard about the genius Leafs and the greatness of the Leafs, and it's just nice to go on there and totally have our team, the Edmonton Oilers, dominate the Toronto Maple Leafs. It was an utterly dominating performance, not just by McDavid, but by the Oilers. 20 grade A scoring chances to 11 for the Leafs, 6-4 victory. Pretty sweet, eh, Bruce?
Pretty sweet, and a long time coming. The last time the Oilers won a game in Toronto was 2010.
Yikes.
Nearly 10 years ago. It was December of 2010, so 9 years ago. But Taylor Hall and Jordan Eberle were rookies. That's how long ago it was that the Edmonton went into Toronto and won. And from then to now, there's been a series of extremely painful defeats. The Devin Dubnyk game on Hockey Night in Canada, when Dallas Eakins' swarm defense let everybody down, and Toronto came back and won in overtime when Ryan Nugent-Hopkins got tripped, and no call leading to a 3-on-1. Not that I remember these kind of details from 7 years ago. Or that time that Toronto scored 21 seconds into the first period on a deflection in front of Laurent Brossoit and won 1-0, despite Oilers pumping 41 shots on Curtis McElhenney, Toronto's backup goalie. And then there was a time Nazem Kadri hooked Connor McDavid in the neutral zone in overtime, stole the puck off him. And I'm talking pain, and I'm talking this decade of pain, and I'm loving it tonight. Take it, Toronto. Enjoy the defeat.
Yeah, suck it. Hey, there's something different about our pod. Like, am I big on your screen tonight or little?
Oh, you're big.
You're big on my screen tonight. Usually it's the other way around.
Okay.
Anyway. Whatever.
I always have me in a little corner and you kind of dominating the center of the screen.
Anyway, yeah, you are feeling.
Oh, then there was a time here where Chris Russell scored on a slap shot into his own net with 1 minute left in regulation. You'll remember that one.
I don't blurred together in the decade.
Oh, yeah, they blurred into pain when it comes to the Leafs. So any win over Toronto is a glorious night as far as I'm concerned.
Bruce, the Oilers are looking good,
Yeah, they played well.
They're looking good, and I've been saying all along. Of course, I say this every year that this is the year. But there have been market differences this year, and the most market difference of all that we're starting to see is a Connor McDavid who is absolutely determined to take this team and carry it on its back into the playoffs. There was a little criticism a few weeks ago of McDavid's even strength play wasn't up to snuff. Might have even been mentioned on this podcast about 50 times. And I don't know. I doubt he listens to these podcasts, but maybe that's just maybe he realized it, and the coaching staff got through to him. That's the most likely thing that happened, of course. And he has totally pulled up his socks in the defensive end, and the puck watching has come to an end. Generally speaking, and he's really playing well. So we're going to do our 2 good things, 2 bad things, and 2 numbers podcast, but we're going to each do 2 good things because it's that kind of night. What is your first good thing, Bruce?
I could do a lot of good things tonight, but number 1 with a bullet has to be Connor McDavid's performance in near his hometown of Richmond Hill, Ontario, and Connor had the puck and the Leafs on a string tonight. Just dominated the game, created chance after chance, beat defenseman after defenseman one-on-one. Got fouled a number of times, or he would have been in clear a few more times, but they finally called one in the third. But he set up three different Oilers goals, and on very nifty setups. And then, of course, he scored the goal, I would say the goal of the year, that he scored in the third period in a 4-on-4 situation when Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, to his credit, made a fine defensive play at the Edmonton blue line, hooked the puck out to McDavid in the neutral zone. And McDavid spent, it seemed like an eternity, but it was probably only about 3 seconds that he had the puck on his stick. He never looked down at it. He never looked towards the Toronto net. He looked back towards the Oilers end, waiting for a teammate to join him on the rush. And then without changing his backwards glance, all of a sudden he took one step to the outside and around a very fine defenseman in Morgan O'Reilly, and he was alone in front, and he finished it off with a very nifty backhand to forehand to roof of the net deep with just a dazzling play, almost slow motion, but the one step was just lightning fast. And Riley might as well have had his skates tied together. You see him when he was going to the bench and he was just shaking his head.
This is the thing. McDavid, it's getting to the point where when McDavid's one-on-one with an NHL defenseman, it's not fair anymore. He will beat that defenseman. He will beat if there's not a foul or the defenseman doesn't have a really good angle on McDavid, McDavid's going to beat that guy. Right now, he's never been better.
A lot of teams focus on trying to keep McDavid wide, and they know even if he comes inside, he's only got the one shot, and they trust their goalie to come out. And we saw a couple of those tonight where McDavid couldn't go across the Royal Road with the puck. If he can take it from one post to the other, the goalie's in serious trouble. And in this, in the case of the goal, he did. I think I was saying recently to my wife, it's been a while. McDavid's playing all right, but it's been a while since he sort of took a game on his shoulders and said, "We're not going to lose this game. I'm going to take over and make sure." And this was that game where he was such a dominant player on the ice that the other team did not have an answer for him.
Well, he had that first great shift. I don't know if it was his first shift, but a shift early in the game where he first cut hard into the slot and got Edmonton's first grade A chance. And then he just stayed out on the ice. He was out there for a minute 39. And the Oilers just kept cycling the puck, and he was off in the middle of it all the way along, making plays all the way along. And he just stayed out there and stayed out there and stayed out there. And finally, the puck went back to Clefbaum at the point, and he put it on net. And Joakim Nygard made a hell of a screen, and the Oilers scored 1-0. Like, an NHL game, we both know on – the league is so close. Any team can win, and it's really important what happens in the early moments of a first period. I find I'm just sitting on the edge of my seat in the first period, honestly, in an NHL game. Like who's going to come out and get that first goal? Because it just seems all important. I know it isn't, but I wonder what statistically the team who scores first does. What percentage it is of wins.
It's good. It's way over 60%.
Yeah. So I'm just and for him to come out and do that was. It's fan-freaking-tastic.
Yeah, right, that was a long shift. Like he had complete change of line mates, and he hung out there, and it looked like every time it looked like he might decide to go off, the puck would come to him again. So he'd have to make another play with it, of course.
Yeah.
And I bet you he handled the puck 6 or 7 times on that long sequence.
Bruce, my good thing is so the Oilers gave up 2 goals right at the end of the third period. They did their best in the second period. They did their best in the second period to let Toronto back into that game. And we're going to get into a little bit more detail on that shortly when we get to our bad things. But my first good thing is, after that happened, the Leafs could have come out in the third, and I was kind of half expecting it because we've seen the Oilers cave a number of times. Late in the game in the third period, but this game they came out and they were the better team and they dominated the third as well. They had, let me see here, 5 grade A chances to 3 for the Leafs in the third period, and
9 shots to 7 when they were holding multi-goal lead for most of the period.
Yeah, so until that power play.
Yeah.
until that power play goal by Matthews, the Leafs didn't really have they didn't have a grade A chance, and they didn't put much pressure on the Oilers. That was an outstanding play. I thought the defensemen were particularly good in the third period, the Oilers defensemen, but the forwards too, all of them were playing really strong, responsible hockey. And we've seen the Oilers do this in other games. They can play that way, and it's great to see it more and more. So that's my good thing. What is your second good thing?
My second good thing is the offense from the defense. And we saw that in spades tonight with defensemen scoring the first two goals. Of course, the two big time on ice minute munchers, Clefbaum and Nurse. But you know what? Here's a rare stat that you will not see very often, at least not from this team. All 6 defensemen got a point in this game. And that just doesn't happen. But we had Clefbaum from Larson and McDavid, Nurse from McDavid and Bear, Yamamoto from Jones and Draisaitl, with Jones right in the middle of that play. That was beauty. And then Chris Russell with the first headman pass to Nygaard that turned into Chason's goal. And, Oilers, other than that first goal with that tremendous long pressure that they had, all other 5 of their goals were scored on the rush. And they were scored on the rush with the defenseman getting involved and making things happen. So you got to like that. I mean, that's what we've been crying for is more, 5 in attack, 5 in defense. The whole idea is there. It's that you actually do have 5 in attack, and when you have all the defensemen chipping in, well, that's the ideal. So hats off to those guys, and some very nice plays among them to earn those points.
Indeed. Clefbaum was one of the, in our own stats keeping, Bruce, one of the things you hardly ever see is a defenseman credited with a major contribution to a scoring chance or a goal on a screenplay. But that was Clefbaum on Draisaitl's goal. He went hard to the net, and Draisaitl shot right through him and scored. Even it was a hell of a shot, but Clefbaum made a great screen as well. So good for Clefbaum. So my second good thing is the play right now of Kailer Yamamoto and Caleb Jones, the Bakersfield connection. Both players who are called up from Bakersfield this year, and both players who I think are making a significant difference. When Jones is in the lineup, he's not playing. He only played 9 minutes tonight, but it just changes the complexion of the team because suddenly you have 3 defensemen capable of moving the puck, and you have a puck-moving defenseman, puck-passing defenseman on every pairing, including Russell with Jones. And I noticed a number of times Russell, putting the puck over to Jones and Jones getting it out. That's a huge difference for the Oilers, as opposed to Russell and maybe Nurse, who don't get it out. You have Nurse with Ethan Bear, he gets it out. Then you have Clefbaum with Larson, Clefbaum gets it out. So that's a major change for the Oilers. And Jones finally showed some of the offensive flair that he genuinely has, where he came deep, joined the attack, got the pass, an absolutely brilliant pass from the Draisaitl. What a pass. What a pass. It was a pass that only he can make. Maybe there's a couple other players in the NHL can make that pass. Backhand pass right across the ice, hard on the stick. And then Jones made a not as great a pass, but a scintillating pass in his own right, putting it over to Yamamoto, who one-timed it in the net. Yamamoto's just
buried it. He didn't just sort of baby that one home. That was a rocket. Give me a half a chance, boom, in the net.
He's doing what he didn't do. Like he had good underlying and scoring chance numbers in his first 2 stints with the Oilers. Yamamoto did, but he didn't score. He was ineffective around that end. This game's about scoring goals, and now he's doing that. He drew a penalty as well. With a kind of a sneaky Yamamoto kind of play, I think.
That was the old. I saw that as the old Glenn Anderson kind of hard dive. Andy he'd go in, and somebody got a stick or something in there, and Anderson would just sort of stumble and crash heavily to the ice, and the ref would. By the time he had time to think about it, his arm was already in the air for 2 seconds, and he kind of had to make the call, right? And that was one of those. Like, it's a skill, and it's one that he has proven at the minor league over and over again this year from multiple observers. I kept hearing how Yamamoto was drawing penalties consistently in the AHL, and we saw just a little taste of that black art on that one play.
So how does this feel, Bruce, to have three players in Bear, Yamamoto, and Jones? Like, and Yamamoto changes the complexion of the team as well because he gives them the ability to actually have two functioning top lines, which they have right now. They really do. They have two lines that can put the boots to you when they're out there, and it must be scary for the opposition to have to face. So he changes it up. So we have three players from the farm system making a major impact this year. I'm going to probably have to do a post and go back and look at the last time we had this kind of thing. Probably in the early 2000s, right, when you had the Horkoff, Stoll, Gang, Pisani, those guys coming up from the farm team in Cape Breton, I believe it was, or where was it?
Yeah.
So
it's been a
it's
while.
been a while. So these are all Shirelli era picks, and people hate it when I say that, but it is
credit where due.
Credit where due. These are all Shirelli era picks. Peter Shirelli restocked the Oilers farm system, and you can say whatever you want about the guy. He made a lot of mistakes. He made a terrible signing in the Milan Lucic signing, a terrible trade in the Reinhart trade, but he did under his watch. However it was done, whoever gets the credit, whatever, I don't care. Good draft picks were made. Enough good draft picks and signings were made to restock the Oilers farm system, and it's paying dividends.
I don't know that it was extraordinary drafting, just compared to the Oilers' previous record for about the previous 30 years.
It was good draft. Yeah.
It was actually getting guys out of other than the first round. Like for years, it was just like a desert. Any pick outside of about the top 10. And the Oilers would pick kind of players over and over again. So to actually have some, fourth and fifth, third rounders, playing in the NHL is, that's how it's supposed to work. But it's nice to see it actually working that way for the Oilers.
Yeah, just think if they had taken Matthew Tkachuk instead of. Anyway, let's not get into it. Bruce, let's, probably every Oiler, it crosses the mind of every Oilers fan every second day. So, Bruce, what is your bad thing?
Well, I hate to be critical after such an exciting game, but the Oilers' bottom six kind of got caved in this game by Toronto's bottom six, where they gave up the Sheahan, Archibald, Caroline gave up 2 goals at even strength. And they were, these are goals scored by Jason Spezza and Freddie Gauthier. And then the Toronto's third line, fourth line even, Kapanen, Engvall, they scored against Edmonton's, against the Gaetan Haas trio. And so Edmonton's bottom six got outscored 3-0 in this game. Well, I guess Chason got one, so make it 3-1. But it was their job is to limit the damage, and if you give up 1, well, that's going to happen. But 3 is they lost their part of the game pretty significantly. But
the Haas line was good, but the Sheahan line was not.
They struggled, and they also got torched for the power play goal against. Also Sheahan.
That was a tough call on Sheahan I think it was probably a penalty, but it was like an inadvertent one. Kara is my bad thing. His play on the first goal against the Oilers are up 3-0 at that point, and Toronto breaks up the ice. It's 3-on-3. Nothing's happening, Bruce. Nothing's gonna happen. And who gets slow? Who's ahead of the player? He's ahead of his check coming back in the Toronto end. But by the time they get to the Edmonton end, I think it's Pierre Engvall has gotten ahead of Kara. He gets to play in the slot, puts it over to Spezza and a goal. That was just a terrible back check. By any player, it's a terrible back check. But for a player who's supposed to check, it's just he can't keep making that kind of play and stay in the NHL. Is the bottom line.
The Oilers have just scored to make it 3-0. Put yourself back in the situation. Of course, their top lines have been involved in the goal scoring, so they put out their most reliable checking line with a 3-0 lead, and they can't survive one shift without giving up a golden scoring opportunity that gets turned into a goal. And as you say, it was probably Kara that made the biggest mistake on that, although Sheahan was a long way away by the time the puck went in. I'd have to review where on the ice he got beat.
He got beat up the ice. He lost the battle in the offensive zone, and then Archibald allowed the pass into the slot. But really, if you're just staying with your man and checking your man and on
Well,
top
that's
of it and
pretty
thinking I
fundamental.
better I better make this play because that's what I'm out here for. That's my job. It's my
100%.
only job. So I mean I have at times been a really big Kara fan. Judari has played some. He was a really strong player in the AHL at the end, and he's had some really good runs of play, some good games with the Oilers. He's on a really bad run right now, and I mean, there's the whispers, the talk radio talk is he could be he could be on the way out, and maybe that's affecting him. Maybe it's getting him down or something. But he's got to pick up his game. He's just got to start moving his feet and make that play. He could. It's just you can't
Yeah,
have
he,
that
he
happen.
really has rise of tides of confidence, it seems like. When he's on
Yeah,
his game, he's very, very good. And he's
yeah,
got a lot of game. He's got a lot of breadth to his game.
he
And
does. Big,
and
fast, tough, can make a play,
kill penalties,
kill
you know,
penalties.
can play the physical game, can win board battles, can cycle. But then when his game starts to go on him, it seems like it all goes.
You know, I'm not saying you got to trade this player, but it might be a case where a trade of this player might actually help him.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe
Sometimes
he
that
needs
happens.
that to wake, just a wake up call, a new setting, a new coach, just get in with a new group, not reinvent yourself, but just reset, and might help him.
You'd think at some point Tippett will be tempted to let him watch a game from on high and maybe put Patrick Russell out in
Well,
his
that
spot because he can count on Patrick Russell to do the little things. So basically, that's all Patrick Russell does, but he does them consistently and he does them well.
yeah,
And
he did that already, didn't he? Didn't
mhm,
Carey get sit for a game or two,
maybe a long time ago, but
like
yeah,
2 weeks ago?
he
Last
was.
time Russell was in, or maybe I'm wrong about that.
Yeah,
Maybe it
no,
was
I think
Granlund.
yeah, I think you're right. And it may just he just needs to be on that cycle to the press box once in a while or something like that. I'm
Yeah,
kind of at a loss, David, to tell the truth. At this point, his third full year in the NHL and his sixth year in pros, that some of the mistakes like the one you just described, they just really shouldn't be happening.
what's your number?
Well, there's lot of very interesting numbers from this game, but I'm going to go with the very unusual double digit from the event summary. That's not from the face-off aisle, and that is 10 hits by James Neal, who played an extremely rugged and effective game tonight. And he was finishing his checks and playing with purpose and physicality throughout. And I thought he was effective, and that was part of the reason that McDavid was finding the open ice that he was finding was Neal was doing his work, softening up Toronto defenders and creating some space. He also had 7 shot attempts, 4 on goal. Like he was very involved in this game. But those hits, and there was one, I don't know if you saw it, the filthy sequence he had with Justin Hall uh, late in the first period when they were battling along the boards. And Neal, first of all, he cross checked Hall from behind, kind of into the boards, could have been a penalty. Then he tripped him while he was trying to pull the puck out from the boards. He whipped his stick through Hall's skate, sent him flying to the ice. Hall swung around. He whacked Neal on the back with his stick with a slash. Then he got up and he cross-checked Neal once in the corner, and then the second time he cross-checked him so hard he broke his stick. And the ref didn't call one penalty out of the whole sequence. It was only after his stick was on the ice that he tripped Ethan Bear that the ref then called Justin Hall for a penalty. But that was as mean and really dirty a sequence of like old style 70s 80s hockey of the man on man uh, flame war, right? They were just really going at it,
That
and it
was
was just
yeah, Bobby Schmutz versus Pierre Bouchard. I you
yeah,
know when Neal is physical, Bruce, when James Neal plays physical, he looks like he might even be a $5.5 million a year winger. In those games when he brings his A game, his total A game,
hmm
he's a good player still. Now
he had a lot of game tonight, David.
I don't think he can do that all the time.
Oh,
Um, and he picks his spots. I'd love to see him in the playoffs because this may be a foreshadowing of the kind of game he'll bring consistently in the playoffs. And Lucic, everyone said Lucic is going to be this good player in the playoffs, but when he got to the playoffs that year, he was one of the more underwhelming Oilers I found. Anyway, let's shut up about
Neal.
that. But Neal is
last game against Boston. You might recall I singled him out for several hits in the first period, including mashing David Pastrnak a few minutes after Pastrnak had hit Clefbaum. Well, wouldn't you know it? But today, I think it was today, I heard an interview with James Neal, and they specifically referenced that hit, and he kind of had a little gleam in his eye as he was talking about, when when one of your teammates is taking one, you're kind of taking a number, and if you're the one who gets the chance, you take that chance, and he sure did. And to my eye, David Pastrnak was a more effective player in that game before that hit than he was after.
I think these players like Neal, Lucic, Mike Smith, like these really are strong personalities. And, if things go well for them, I think they really can pull a team along with them just because they're veteran guys who have just dominating personalities anyway. You get the sense with Neal and Smith that that's the case, and certainly with Lucic. Alrighty, my number is Connor McDavid's major contributions to grade A scoring chances tonight. Bruce, he had 12 major contributions to grade A chances. I think he averages about 4 a game. So that was 3 games worth in 1 game. And he had 0 mistakes, 0 grade A mistakes on 0 major mistakes on grade A chances against. So that's as good as it gets for an NHL center playing tough competition. That's as good as it gets. You can't play any better two-way hockey than that. I've never seen, I think we might have seen some games where guys have been in maybe on 14 or 15 grade A chances. McDavid, there might have been a few games like that, but then maybe they leak a few against.
Right.
That was amazing. That's a perfect game. So in the grades I gave him a 10. And I asked people on Twitter what they would give him, and I think everyone's saying a 10.
Well, you asked me before we went on air,
Yeah.
and I said agreed it was a 10 too. I mean, it was a high 9, which turns it into a 10. I mean, it was a 10. If he's made no defensive mistakes on top of that, and he got 2 assists on plays where you didn't rate him with a scoring chance, but where he was involved in the build-up that led to a goal. I don't know how many times he brought the puck in over the Toronto blue line, but it would have been a lot.
Yeah, it was almost a flawless performance, and then there was on top of it were these dominating plays and one truly spectacular play that's going to be, at the end of his career, that could be on the highlight reel. If they show 3 or 4 plays, that might be one of them. Mm-hmm. Hopefully there'll be a couple of them scoring Stanley Cup winning goals, though, too, Bruce.
That'd be nice. That'd be nice.
He's starting to look like that player, and that's his pedigree. He should win Stanley Cups. He should lead teams to Stanley Cups, and I think one day he's going to here in Edmonton. So that's the feeling tonight in Edmonton. I think is we're finally seeing this team coming together, kind of like that 2016-17 team did. And I know this is all premature, obviously, because I'm so excited by that performance tonight. But that's how it feels to me tonight.
I like to see him smile after he scored. I love watching. That's one of the things I loved about the 80s Oilers is how much they loved to score and how they celebrated their goals. And there are times that I kind of wish McDavid would let his guard down a little bit and truly celebrate on a great play. And I think we saw that tonight. He clearly was enjoying the game. There was a few smiles on the bench, and he was feeling it, and he was feeling like he was in charge of it, and it was great to watch.
Yeah, Draisaitl's the same way. Kind of, he's doesn't really celebrate too much. He's such a stern fellow, and then there's Nuge is kind of modest when he scores, and maybe the full Yakupov now and then maybe that's too much. But Gretzky was so thrilled every time he scored. He really celebrated. He loved to score, and they all do. So I agree with you. Great to see McDavid smiling. All right.
One other thing. Big Leon on the 3-on-5, minute 23 seconds, 3-on-5. And they have Big Leon out there, and they have Big Darnell and Big Oscar. The same three guys killed the entire 3-on-5 penalty, and all three of those guys were horses for Edmonton tonight.
Yeah, maybe I
Played
should
monster
bump up their
minutes,
mark.
and it played monster minutes. And that 3-on-5, even though Toronto later got close, when it was 3-1, I thought, geez, that nice burst, we were up 3-0, and now they're going to get a two-man advantage. Maybe they'll score 2 power play goals and tie it up. And to come out of that thing unscathed, and really, I don't think with a lot of great chances in there. I think they just shut her down, and more power to him. And Leon that's the 4th or 5th time the Oilers have been 3-on-5 this year for a minute or more, and he's been the go-to guy every time and gotten the job done. It's a nice ace. I mean, for all that we sometimes carp about its defensive play, and in that particular assignment, 3-on-5, he's been ace.
Oh, and he can be, and he will be. Like if the Oilers get to the playoffs, Leon Draisaitl's two-way game is going to be off the charts, and his defensive play is going to be.
He reminds me, and not in some ways, but in other ways, he reminds me quite a bit of a guy named Mark Messier.
Yeah, I was just
you'll
thinking.
Remember. Everybody will remember who's old enough. And what people have forgotten when they remember Mark Messier, the domineering playoff player. In the regular season, he made tons of mistakes.
Did he ever?
I used to joke, and this was well into his career, that Mark Messier leads the league in rookie mistakes every season. He used to do, and it wasn't that he didn't care, but it was sort of, if you know the joke about the horse named Rover, it kind of applied to Mark Messier. I won't repeat it on the family podcast, but he would do some careless stuff. But come playoff time, when it came time to lock down and pay attention to the 200-foot game, he was pretty much as good as there was in the league. And I see some of that in Draisaitl. I mean, obviously, we want to see more than one playoff year to confirm, and maybe this is the year. It'd be good to see.
This is the year. All right. Thanks, Bruce. Thanks for talking tonight.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Thanks for beating Toronto, Oilers.
Yeah, thanks, Oilers. And in the meantime and in between times, this has been another edition of the Cult of Hockey podcast.